Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Manual. And this will be the last, video in the series of the restoration of the Firebird. And what I wanted to do today is just take a second, go through the tools that I bought for this project that wasn't sure how much I was going to use them, or sometimes I knew I was going to use them, I just kind of stumbled upon a really great tool or something I found really useful. So today I want to share with you the tools on this table that really helped me out during the restoration of my Firebird. And if you're going to be doing a restoration, these might be some tools I recommend you looking at as part of that process before you get started to save yourself time and hopefully some money. So stay tuned. Okay, so I will put the links to these tools and what I'm using in the description of the video. And these tools aren't laid out in any rhyme or reason, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of pair them together as I see fit. So first off is this digital torque wrench. Now, if you've seen any of my other videos, I believe I went through a demonstration of this one, torquing the heads and some other components down on the engine. But this one is made by acdelco, and I know you can spend a lot of money on, quote, really good torque wrenches, but the acdelco has been really good to me so far. It's been repeatable, and once I learned the tones, I found that I could get repeat torque readings fairly accurately. So this is, again, I bought this one on Amazon. I don't remember the price, but you can look it up for yourself. But it was more reasonable and got really good reviews. Again, this is the acdelco 1/2-inch torque wrench. I believe this one is good to 250 foot-pounds. Okay, let's look at, we'll stay on the tool portion of this, and this is kind of a two-piece set. So I started off with this gear wrench socket combo, and what I really liked out of it, if you can just buy this, great, but this is the gear wrench ratchet, if you will. And this kit came in super handy on a few places where I couldn't get a standard socket and ratchet into. But the other most important part of that would be what I consider this. This is the gear wrench. They make a couple different varieties of this. This one happens to be the metric kit. So this one comes with metric taps from M3 by 0.5 all the way up to an M12 by 175. And I found that this kit gave me just about every tap and die I needed when working on the Firebird. Now, if you have a more American classic build, right, something probably prior to the 80s, they make this same kit, but with American standard sizes. But again, what I like about this kit is the taps were incredibly sharp. I didn't break one tap off in any rusty hole. The dies actually are also equally well made. And don't quote me, but I believe this set might be made in Vietnam, maybe? I'd have to look, but I don't believe this was, or Taiwan, but I don't believe this was made in China. And then the other part of this I liked was, yes, you get more of the tap and die style ratchet, but this is the same as what the sockets take from the kit, so that's why, and I said these tools play nice together, I mean it. What I often found myself using in tight corners was I'd use this gear wrench ratchet with whatever tap adapter I needed. Then you can just put the tap in there, tighten it down, and you were good to go. Very handy kit. It makes tapping holes incredibly simple. Like I said, I did not have any broken taps or anything I did using this. It saved me a bunch of time. Comes with the die adapter using the same style. A feeler gauge and some extra goodies in here. All in all, I highly recommend the gear wrench kit. I used it almost on the entire build. About every piece of it, from engine to assembly, body, interior, you name it. probably one of the weirdest tools you'd think you'd see up here, but this is a shop shears. That's what I'm gonna call it, a shop shears. This one's made by Quinn. You can find these at Harbor Freight. I'll put the link in the description, like I said. But these are, for being what they are from Harbor Freight, these are incredibly well made and incredibly sharp. I've cut radiator hoses, copper wire, pretty much anything but a steel nail. And this cuts through with ease. I would be careful, it probably would definitely cut through a finger if you were dumb enough. But super handy for cutting sticky material like soundproofing and underlayment. Worked incredibly well on automotive carpet and padding. Again, highly recommend those shears. I used them way more than I thought. I think in the spirit of what we've been doing here, let's look at a couple sets. I figured initially that I'd be using a Nutert gun for the project. And I ended up buying this one. This is from Nextad. But this one was from Amazon, and the case leaves a little bit to be desired. However, it has never jammed on me. This is kind of a straight tool a lot of people are accustomed to seeing. It comes with a full set of metric and standard dies. So basically M5 through M12, and what's our smallest one? I think it's going to be 8/32 through 1/2 inch. So pretty full kit. Worked good in 90% of the applications. I did end up having to buy one other tool once the engine was in and space became a premium, as one might assume. And this is built by Amazon purchase again. Welder Light, sure. But this one uses like a drill, or you can use the supplied ratchet. But this one actually has a little bit different set, and I actually was able to get this in to the wheel well in between there and the headers with another tool that I thought I had up here, which we'll talk about. So this was kind of my setup, 90-degree drill into a 90-degree rivet nut gun. And this one again came with what I like about these kits is they come with a bunch of nuts, whether they're brass or steel and or aluminum in this kit. And again, from basically M4 in this kit, I'm sorry, M3 all the way through M12, and then about the same 8/32 through 1/2 inch. Really good kit. Part number on this one was RG6 250. Oh, I'm sorry, 3/8. This one goes to 3/8. Oh, and 6/32 through 3/8. That's my bad. But again, really good kit. I used these two a lot. And I tried drilling and tapping whatever I could, but there just came some instances where I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna put a nut zert in. And what I did for those, and be like, oh, those are gonna slip over time. And yeah, you're right. Normally they will, they have that tendency to do so. But what I actually found worked well is if you take a little JB weld or panel bond, put that on your nut zert, cinch it in. That stuff normally sets, depending on what you get, 1 to 5 minutes. Let that cure, and I mean, they hold body panels together on BMWs. So you get a good panel bond or JB weld that's not going anywhere, and you don't have to worry about it spinning. So super handy kit. I use these for fixing ground effects molding plastics, interior work, mounting things in the engine bay after the fact, things I forgot about, like windshield wiper reservoirs and that kind of stuff. Okay, and as mentioned, this also came in handy when maybe I forgot a clamp, or I realized, hey, that wire is a little too close to the headers for my liking. This is called a Drive 90. And what I liked about it was it's metal geared, and you can take these apart, fix them, replace them. Goes into a standard kind of driver end and gives you that female receptacle. And it's the shortest, I'm gonna guess, using my thumb, maybe 1.5 inches wide before you put a bit in. And the bit does get sunken, so you can really get this nice and tight if you're using something like a Phillips screw or something. But this was great for getting behind the engine and mounting clamps on the firewall or in other tight places. Okay, other tools I guess I want to talk about that I used quite a bit more than I thought. And again, you don't need to buy these new. In fact, this one I bought from the pawn shop for $24. So don't buy new if you don't have to. You can find a lot of good used tools from quality brands. But this is their M12 rotary tool. And you can, maybe it's hard to see here, but I have a small carbide cutter in this. And this came in really handy for when maybe panels didn't line up right, like the fender to the hood, the door, body molding holes, whatever. Instead of having to round out the whole hole, you can mark what you need expanded, and I'd probably practice a little bit because it does bite, but you can actually elongate a hole if you need to, or make little modifications in the body panels. With this, I use it all the time. The interior, didn't go back together flawlessly. There's a few that had to take this tool and kind of carve out a little bit to make some things fit. But the carbide tool is great for plastic, great for metal. This is nice and compact and small and easy to handle. I felt very comfortable with it. This is their M12 tool, part number 2460-20. So I really like this, used it a lot on the build. And the next Milwaukee tool we're going to talk about, again, it doesn't have to be Milwaukee, guys. This could be Harbor Freight, I don't care, but a compact 90-degree drill. This came in handy for multiple reasons. Like I said, I use this sometimes offset, so I had 90 down and into something if I had to make a crazy corner to reach a screw, take something apart, tighten a clamp on holes I couldn't reach. I use it a lot more than I thought, especially for drilling holes in tight areas. There's a couple times I had to take a drill bit, cut it down, so maybe I only had an inch of the drill bit sticking out, but it still allowed me to punch that hole into what I needed. And I would never have gotten a regular drill in. So probably saved me hours and hours of struggling. So get yourself a 90-degree drill of some type. That's also an M12. And the part number on that, if you're curious, this is not a fuel tool. 3/8, 10mm right angle drill. 2415-20. Okay, now I have actually two heat guns. I have a battery operated one that's 18 volt from Milwaukee. That works fairly well. Doesn't get as hot as this. And I like this when it comes with two heat settings, two speeds, if you will, high and low. And conveniently, this one can also be set up on a table to have it turn on and work a heat shrink across the top of it. It also has a very nice elongated collar on here, so you need to control heat if you're in a sensitive area. But this one works extremely well. It's pretty quiet. I really had no problems with this. And if you guys are just buying one, like I said, I bought this from the pawn shop for 24 bucks. It works really well, heats up really fast, save your guys a bunch of time. So that's what we're going to talk about next, is actually connections. So I have seen a lot, I have used a lot of electrical connections, and wiring can be one of those things in a car you want to do right the first time, or you will be chasing problems down forever, and it's just going to cause you time, misery. Maybe it'll even stop all forward progress on your project. And I've seen people use the shrink to solder butt connectors, and those are great when you actually buy them from the brand store. But if you're buying them on Amazon, I can almost guarantee you that centerpiece is just a regular piece of steel, and they're garbage, and they very rarely get hot enough to fully melt into a real solder. So I would avoid them. What I recommend instead is, this is like a $70 kit. This one's made on Amazon. It's called Lonove, Lonove. And this kit it was really great. It came with a free bonus gift as well, but this one gets up to 850 degrees, probably within 10-15 seconds. It's got some programmable settings on it. Comes with a couple different tips. This tip has lasted me for years and years. It's a really good product. What else can I say about this? pretty much comes with everything you need to start soldering. And I would always suggest, you know, even if you have to butt splice something, heat it up and throw some solder in there. It's just going to strengthen that connection. To which then you can put some heat shrink over and make a really nice, permanent, solid connection. And actually, speaking of heat shrink, let me show you. I'm back. But I guess this isn't a tool, but I want to show this. It can also save you some time and heartache. I buy these on Amazon. They're made by wirefy. And what I like about them is it's 4-to-1 shrink ratio. So you can slide them over some bigger connectors and get them tight enough to make a good seal. They're also adhesive lined. So when you get this hot enough, it's actually going to create almost a, I don't want to call it waterproof or weatherproof, but it's going to seal and adhere so it doesn't slide around whatever you're heat shrinking it to. But this is a nice kit, comes with a lot of different sizes. How many pieces are in here, does it say? There's a lot. They're pre-cut to 1.5 inches, flame retardant. I've had very good luck with these, and I've tried a number of different ones. So far, these have been the best. I will also put a link to that. But when you make that soldered connection, heat shrink over it, you know, cinch it down with the heat shrink gun, you're gonna have great connections that'll last the life of the car. And I know there's gonna be some haters out there that say, well, soldered joints are brittle, they'll break. No. Auto body places do it all the time. There are solder joints everywhere in a vehicle. Yes, there's a fair number of crimp connections too, but there's also a fair number of solder joints, and I've yet to see one bend to the point where it breaks. And you gotta have something flopping around in the wind pretty wildly, I think, before you break a solder joint. Okay, this next one is something that I've looked at, I've created an Excel spreadsheet on, but this is a 3M Automotive, call it 2-part epoxy gun. And this is specifically part number 08571. Now these are probably $90. You can find them on Amazon's where I got this. But what I will say is when you buy a bigger canister of 2-part epoxy, you get more product. They're better where you can, you know, use a little bit now, put it on the shelf, and then use it 3 months later and it's still good. Versus sometimes those little JB Weld tubes, they start to cure inside the mixing. And what you pay for them in the long run to equal what you get in one tube, say you buy a tube of 2-part seam sealer, it's actually about as much as you get in a caulk gun, except you get the nice pre-mixed tube. It's easier to use, more controllable. And I've used this for everything from seam sealer, panel bond, foam. You can get cartridges, and you're not limited by what you can find in a caulk gun. Dozens of brands will make something that'll fit in here, whether it's SEM, Polymix, 3M, I'm sure there's others. But this was really great. I liked it a lot, saved me a lot of time, and I think it saved me ultimately money on wasted product that I didn't have to open and throw away because I didn't use it all. Okay, getting down there. And it doesn't have to be a Brady Labeler, but I would say get a labeler, something where you can make some, this one happens to have 3/4 inch labels in it. It's really nice. You don't have to worry about masking tape, writing on it with a pen as you're making a wiring harness for whatever it happens to be, or just running stereo wires for your speakers. You can label where they go. There's no guessing. I use it a lot. I use it in the engine bay. I use it when I was starting to lay out different sensors on the Holly harness. You name it. Handy tool, kind of works really well if you start a project and don't always have time to finish it because you got kids, a wife, whatever the case might be. But get yourself a labeler. You can find them at Walmart. You can buy a Brady. Doesn't really matter, but handy tool nonetheless. Okay, and this is just a bag I have it in, and I'm not advocating for power probe directly, but some type of meter, okay, whether it's a Fluke, whether it's a Klein. This one happens to be a power probe. This was nice for troubleshooting, specifically when I had on my Firebird, it has the electrical hatch pull down. when I had that rebuilding on the bench and I wanted to test it. This works really great for injecting 12 volts or injecting the ground into a system to test it. And depending on what kit you buy, they can range from $150 to maybe $275, depending if you get the kit with the extra extension and the alligator probes, whatever the case might be. For me, it just happens to fit good into this Husky tool bag. Keeps everything flat when I throw it in the tool chest. But power probe, I like it, it's a good tool. These you've seen before. I am not new to YouTube in my appreciation of this tool, but this is the Capri. This is the 1/4 inch. I also have the 3/16, and I also have some of their benders for brake line. But this is a great kit. This is when you have to make a brake line on a vehicle versus like a vise mounted one. But this is, like I said, it's great. This one is specifically for double flares. So you have operation 1, operation 2 die. You have an alignment plug, and then you have more than enough grease to last you a lifetime, or at least the life of this tool. But they're pretty low cost tools, made well, haven't stripped it out, and I think I made 20-ish some with this since I've had it. I think I've only had one bad flare, and that's probably because I couldn't quite see, and maybe I didn't have it all the way up against the plug that goes in here. But either way, highly recommend it if you're going to do brake lines on a vehicle. And it's very compact, uses a 17mm and a 10mm. In fact, that's all it sits in my tool chest, just like that. Okay. Now, for those who have seen the videos, awesome, appreciate it. And if you haven't, go back, check them out. I actually spray painted my Firebird in my shop here. I set up a makeshift paint booth using a tarped shelter I just set up in my shop to keep overspray down, put a couple fans in it. And this is a Harbor Freight paint gun. Now, while this worked very well for what I did, I also had a chance to look at and use the Harbor Freight Black Widow. So if you look at Harbor Freight paint guns, they really have 3 tiers. You have like the sub $20 gun. You have this one, which I think sometimes go on sales for like 150-ish. Then you have the Black Widow. And I'll tell you, I thought I liked this one. That Black Widow lays down paint super smooth. I would say almost I'm not a painter by trade, but to me, it felt like the Black Widow was probably twice as good as this for maybe $50 to $75 more. So if I were to do it again, I'd get the Black Widow gun. But if you want to save some money, this HVLP gun, this one happens to be the 1.7 that I used, but I also have a 1.3 that I have. Same with the, what do you want to call this, the water filter on the end of the gun. That's also from Harbor Freight. And never had any issues with water in the lines or getting into my paint or anything like that. System worked very, very well, especially if you clean them out. They're super easy to take apart, super easy to clean. Saves yourself a ton of time after you're done spraying. And then finally, this is something I almost buy by the case when I was painting. And if I was to paint another car, I'd do the same thing. This is the 3M high power spray gun cleaner. Now I will say, this takes cleaning a paint gun down to 5 minutes or less. This blasts through primer, epoxy, paint, clear coat, you name it. But I will say it eats gloves. So if you're gonna use this, get yourself a nice pair of chemical gloves. Just makes, otherwise it's like you'll find all of a sudden you'll be looking down at your gloves and they'll kind of be dissolving in your hand. I always wear a mask when I use this, but it makes cleanup a breeze for paint guns. Really eats away all the material. Make sure you have a clean start the next time you want to use it. This is a 3M 26689, and I actually also buy this at Harbor Freight just because it's the cheapest and it's convenient for me to go there and pick it up. So shorter video, but those are, I guess, the tools that I found myself always thinking to myself, man, this was a great purchase. I'm glad I bought this. And I hope that helps if you guys are in the process of restoring a car or you're looking at getting into a project. You don't always need a wildfire lift and all the big fancy stuff. I mean, if you can, great. I've been blessed to have that opportunity. But some of these tools, like I said, you can get from pawn shops. you can get off Amazon, Harbor Freight, and I really like them. They work really well. So if you like the content, please hit that like and subscribe. It really helps me, helps the channel. It doesn't cost you guys a thing. And until next time, thanks for watching Beyond the Manual.